Vietnam strives to achieve 6.7% growth. The development of Fintech in Vietnam. Hello and welcome to this edition of BizLine brought to you by VTV International. You're with me, Lina Phạm. And as usual, we'll begin our program by reviewing the economic highlights over the past week. Prime Minister Nguyễn Xuân Phúc urged government members to take drastic measures to attain the targeted growth rate of 6.7% this year at the Cabinet's February meeting in Hanoi on Wednesday. He noted the stable macroeconomy, $2.2 billion of foreign direct investment, an increase in the number of new businesses, and controlled inflation with a consumer price index expansion of 0.23% in February as positive signs. However, the international situation remains volatile with protectionism resurgence and increasing prices of crude oil and basic materials. He asked government members to assess the domestic and global situation to make appropriate moves to promote growth, macroeconomic stability, and the economy's competitiveness. Solutions should be devised to address problems like low agricultural product prices in the domestic market and low labor productivity, especially in agriculture and rural areas. The list of the top 500 fastest growing companies, or the Fast 500 in Vietnam in 2017 has just been released by the Vietnam Report. The top 10 leading companies are FPT Software Company, Nguyễn Minh Steel Group, Him Lam Real Estate, Pan Group, and Vietjet Air. The survey laid a reliable basis for investors to determine the business growth of Vietnamese firms. The Fast 500 has been released annually since 2011. After 6 years, the list has helped feature the growth of businesses in the economy. To be included in the list, companies must have asserted their strength in doing business and contributed to the country's economic growth. Foreign direct investment, or FDI, in Vietnam reached $3.4 billion in the first 2 months of the year, up 21.5% compared to the same period last year. The Foreign Investment Agency's latest statistics has revealed. Up to 313 new foreign-funded projects with a capital of more than $2 billion received licenses during the period, up 6.5% year-on-year. Meanwhile, 137 existing projects received approval to expand their capital. The period also saw a slight increase in FDI disbursement at $1.55 billion. The manufacturing and processing industry remained the most attractive area to foreign investors, followed by real estate, wholesale, and retail sales. Notably, FDI into the real estate sector reached some $345 million in the first 2 months of this year, an on-year increase of 12 times its previous figure. Singapore remained Vietnam's largest source of FDI, followed by China and the Republic of Korea. Vietnam reported a trade deficit of $1.2 billion in February, the General Statistics Office announced. The GSO's figures revealed that the country's total import-export turnover this month reached $27.2 billion, of which export turnover was $13 billion, an increase of 15.4% from the same period last year, while import turnover was $14.2 billion, or a year-on-year rise of 19.6%. However, in the first 2 months of the year, the country's total trade deficit was $40 million, as total export turnover was over $27.34 billion, while import turnover was $27.38 billion. The rice market in the Mekong Delta is growing strongly, with the price of the rice in February has risen to its peak as businesses are stockpiling to fulfill contracts with the Philippines. The reason behind such price hike is believed that the autumn-winter output in some provinces such as Đồng Tháp, Kiên Giang, Sóc Trăng is low due to bad weather in the past year. At the same time, businesses have to buy more than 293,000 tons of rice for the contracts with the Philippines, also contributed to the rise in domestic prices. However, rice prices are expected to level off when the main harvest season takes place from now on. An innovation center of the CMC Group, a leading technology group in Vietnam, was inaugurated on Sunday. Speaking at the event, Deputy Prime Minister Vũ Đức Đam said the launch of the center marks an important milestone in the development of CMC and Vietnam startups and IT businesses. He called for the expansion of the model in universities and economic groups and the increase in links among these agencies. CMC Innovation Center, spanning over 600 square meters, is designed to be an open space to help users and startup businesses research, meet, and call for investments in high-tech projects such as cloud computing and enterprise security. In addition, the project includes a fund worth 50 billion Vietnam dongs or over $2 million, aimed at finding and promoting new and innovative projects. We have just reviewed some of the economic highlights over the past week. Up next, we'll talk about fintech or financial technology development in Vietnam in our crosstalk. Over the last few years, fintech or financial technology has been taking shape in Vietnam. According to experts, the fintech sector in Vietnam is still in the beginning of its development. But with a young population with competency in using internet, Vietnam is seen as a potential fintech market. In the development of fintech, ensuring online security and financial safety is also a concerning issue. To help us have a better understanding of those problems, our reporter Hải Nam sat down with Mr. Nikrut Sapru, CEO of Standard Chartered Vietnam. First, let's take an overview of fintech in Vietnam in the following.
According to Investopedia, fintech or financial technology are the term used to describe an emerging financial services sector in the 21st century. In the world, the fintech industry has grown explosively thanks to the internet revolution after the 2000s and offered various services including lending, personal finance, payments, investments, crowdfunding, financial research, cryptocurrencies, and blockchain. Following the global trend, Vietnam's fintech industry has also become more popular in the last few years and is now at the beginning of its development. Until 2016, there were more than 30 fintech companies in Vietnam, and 2/3 of them were offering mobile payment services as e-commerce boomed in the country. Vietnam has a population of over 90 million, with the majority being millennials and having increasing access to internet and smartphone. Because of these factors, the country is seen as an enormously potential fintech market, where more and more investors are looking for chances.
Mr. Nikrut Sapru, thank you very much for joining this interview. First, can you give your assessment of the development of fintech in Vietnam in 2016?
Nam, firstly, thank you very much for taking time this morning to meet up with me. Fintech is growing rapidly in Vietnam, which is a great thing. I think Fintech has taken some good positive steps in 2016. There are quite a few new startups coming through. I think the key area for which is helping Fintech innovation in Vietnam is really the fact that you have a really young, savvy, tech-savvy population. Also, internet connectivity in Vietnam is relatively good, and the penetration of mobile phones and internet is quite significant. So what that is doing is that it is helping and fueling a lot of innovation in the sector. So I think 2016 saw quite a bit of exciting new developments in the fintech space in Vietnam.
Can you compare the development of fintech in Vietnam with that in other countries, especially in regional countries?
I think increasingly Vietnam is catching up with some of the countries like Singapore, where innovation in fintech is really moving ahead relatively rapidly. Vietnam itself is seeing lots of innovation in certain areas. I think mobile wallets in particular are seeing a lot of innovation and a lot of new developments in Vietnam. I also think there are areas of peer-to-peer lending and various other aspects of payment technology which are beginning to come into the Vietnam space. But I think predominantly what I see happening is the real development has been in the usage of mobile wallets in Vietnam.
The Vietnam Fintech Club was established in 2015. What does the establishment of the Fintech Club mean to the development of this sector in Vietnam?
The concept of the Fintech Club was to find a forum where people could exchange ideas. It's an informal meeting place where people can meet and exchange ideas. It is really developed on Facebook, that people are connected to each other, they can post ideas, they can see what's happening in their space, they can connect with each other. The intention of it is to really help innovation continue.
Nguyễn Văn Lượng has been planning on buying a Mercedes-Benz that costs over 80,000 US dollars. However, he can only afford half of this amount. While dozens of banks offer many different credit packages, Lượng has chosen Bank Go, a fintech app that connects banks with customers.
Tôi có thể ngồi với một chiếc máy tính thôi là tôi có thể tìm được so sánh được lãi suất của các ngân hàng mà mình có thể cho rằng là tốt nhất. Cái quan trọng nhất là nó tiện và chi phí thấp nhất.
Similar tools that provide financial services have been created to assist customers. Startups have created a niche market that has proven competitive to banks.
Cái tỷ lệ khách hàng trẻ tuổi sử dụng các thiết bị di động cộng với cả các thiết bị điện tử như là máy tính xách tay, như là laptop rồi các thiết bị khác đang ngày càng gia tăng. Mà nếu như mà cái mảng đấy ở ngân hàng thì thực sự là đến thời điểm hiện tại nó cũng chưa phải là một cái mảng ngân hàng thực sự chú trọng. Tôi đánh giá nó sẽ là cái xu hướng trong tương lai và nó sẽ hỗ trợ các sản phẩm truyền thống phát triển tốt hơn.
This app has been part of a financial ecosystem developed by Vũ Việt Hùng since 2011. The ecosystem includes a social network for banks, an online education system, and a bank training center.
Khi đã có một hệ sinh thái bền vững thì việc mình huy động, mình sử dụng những con người trong hệ sinh thái mình đã biết, mình đã làm việc và nó như kiểu là cộng tác với mình từ rất lâu rồi, thì cái việc phát triển một cái sản phẩm mới trong một hệ sinh thái nó khá là dễ.
Meanwhile, those without such an ecosystem will inevitably be acquired by established financial institutions. World-leading organizations such as Citibank, Goldman Sachs, and Morgan Stanley have been pouring billions of US dollars into fintech.
Hiện nay thì do một cái sự đầu tư rất là mạnh của các nhà đầu tư bảo hiểm và fintech, những cái nhà đầu tư họ muốn đầu tư cho những cái cơ hội trong tương lai thì họ đầu tư rất là mạnh, thành ra fintech hoàn toàn có cơ hội để phát triển. Đấy là một cái kênh hay là một cái công cụ để bán hàng và giao dịch mới mà nó sẽ trở thành phổ biến hơn và nó đi vào cuộc sống mạnh mẽ hơn.
Banks might choose to compete or cooperate with fintech. However they choose, it will be customers who will benefit the most.
What services are fintech businesses in Vietnam offering, and what do you think about the quality of those services?
So I think some of the, I'm not going to go business by business because I don't think that would be fair. I think some of the businesses are really powering ahead. In particular, I think there's a lot of innovation happening in the mobile wallet space. There's a lot of innovation happening in peer-to-peer lending and in payment technology. So I think what I would say is that there's exciting new fintech companies coming up quite regularly with new ideas, with different ideas, and these are different ways to solve problems, right? With the use of technology, you can really change the nature of the problem.
Currently, what is the room for further improvement and development of fintech in Vietnam?
So I think there's a range of services. If you look at some of the other markets like Kenya or where wallets have developed and mobile payments have developed, there are a series of things that you can do with mobile payments. For example, you could pay at every shop. You can buy your tickets for the bus. You could buy any public transport tickets. You could pay for movies using a mobile wallet. You can buy stuff off the internet using a mobile wallet. That innovation is there to provide ease of usage by customers, right? So anytime a customer prefers to not use cash, a mobile wallet could substitute for the use of cash. So if you use cash, it needs to be counted at the teller, it needs to be then counted and deposited at a bank, then it needs to be again counted and deposited with the central bank. So if you look at the process that you use when you use cash as opposed to when you use a credit card or when you use a mobile wallet, I think that reduces the cost of the transaction. And if it reduces the cost of the transaction, it means that customers should pay less. So take large consumer product companies, for example. Right? As they sell to all the mom and pop shops in Vietnam, all the mom and pop shops have mobile phones. They could make the payment to the salesman and directly to the company through a mobile wallet. What that does is, the speed at which that money goes to the bank account, plus the fact that the digitization of that payment means that you can have information, you can process it much faster, and there is less risk of fraud. So that's what I see as the kind of area where mobile wallet innovation should continue. It should try and find areas where it can reduce the cost or it can improve the quality of service to customers.
The number of internet users in Vietnam will increase to 20 million people in the next 5 years. This has changed the way customers use products, including financial services. Despite a good technological foundation, experts said that Vietnam needs more to boost digitization in the banking sector.
Hardware technology, Vietnam, with a lot of other emerging markets, are in a good position to adopt and incorporate this technology. But in terms of where you need to develop is in terms of the soft skills, the skill sets, the data scientists, and so on.
With increasing demand for financial services, many fintech companies providing financial solutions have been established. This trend is expected to continue in 2017.
Các cái fintech chắc chắn là sẽ phải đẩy mạnh nhiều hơn những cái liên quan đến số hóa trong lĩnh vực ngân hàng. Trong đó cái việc số hóa trong lĩnh vực mà xử lý các hồ sơ, xử lý các cái thông tin về khách hàng cũng là một trong những cái rất là quan trọng. Những cái số hóa này nó sẽ giúp cho khách hàng giảm tải được cái khả năng xử lý thông tin, cũng như là giảm tải các cái chi phí liên quan đến con người, các cái chi phí liên quan đến sale, chi phí liên quan đến marketing, và từ đó thì giảm tải được cái giá thành khi cung cấp các sản phẩm cho người tiêu dùng.
Tôi tin là 2017 nó cũng là dựa trên cái nền móng của 2016, thì cái việc hợp tác với ngân hàng với fintech sẽ ngày càng sát sao. Người Việt Nam bây giờ chuyện thanh toán online vẫn có một bộ phận là rất là lo lắng và lo ngại, thì đấy tất cả các ngân hàng cùng làm, tất cả các fintech cùng làm và tạo ra những cái chuẩn mực an toàn hơn cho người tiêu dùng.
In order to promote digitization in the financial sector, banks need modern technologies and to train their human resources. This can help create more products for customers, as well as increase banking competitiveness.
What are your assessments of the scales of investment into the Vietnamese fintech market?
So I think it's very difficult to quantify a number and say that there is so much money invested in fintech because the data doesn't exist. But with the number of companies that is developing in Vietnam, I think more than the money is what is called the sweat equity. a lot of people are spending a lot of time developing those ideas, right? People are spending years, days, months working on solving problems. And I think that's really good for Vietnam. Equally, there are a lot of international and local funds available for Vietnamese startups. As I mentioned earlier, we ourselves brought our supercharger here from Hong Kong to help with developing some of that innovation. We also have, as a bank, a platform called SC Innovate, which is based in Silicon Valley, which we use to help bring ideas together and help our customers. So I think the thing, Nam, that I would highlight is that there are a lot of young, really smart people who are trying to solve problems. Once that happens, fintech will definitely grow and there will be innovative solutions.
What is your take on Vietnam's current policies and laws related to fintech?
So regulators are being challenged around the world by setting up regulatory frameworks for fintech companies. It's not an easy area to regulate, because if you over-regulate it, you will stifle innovation. If you under-regulate it, the risk is that consumers will suffer. So getting that balance right for each economy is crucial. And the way to do that is through dialogue. That's how I think good regulation will emerge. As regulators engage with fintech companies, understand what they're doing, look at the opportunities, and then look at the risks. If I was to provide any advice at all, it would be that the conversation between the fintech community and the regulators should be encouraged. The more they talk to each other, the more both sides will benefit from that understanding of each other. I think the other thing which, from a regulatory framework, is that you need to create a level playing field. You cannot regulate one industry in two different ways. So you have to harmonize between how you regulate a bank and how you regulate a fintech company, or how you regulate a fintech company and how you regulate a bank, whichever way you want to look at it.
One of fintech's greatest features is it saves customers from numerous transaction fees from Vietnamese banks. Moreover, users can apply for loans of up to $10,000 and get approval within hours through a simple procedure. The high demand from the public has paved the way for the rise of fintech.
Fintech nó là một cái làn sóng không thể dừng, nó đã đang và phát triển rất là nhanh. Cái mà trước đây dịch vụ tài chính và do các tổ chức trung gian tài chính thực hiện cũng được, chỉ kỳ tới đây có thể những cái anh khác không phải trung gian tài chính.
Statistics have shown that only 30% of the Vietnamese population are regularly engaged in banking activities. Meanwhile, the other 70% still consider banking services as complicated and usurious. This 70% is fintech's target market. However, bank representatives have revealed that fintech ventures in Vietnam are limited to transaction support and operate on small scales. In order to maximize customers' convenience, banking and fintech sectors must cooperate instead of compete.
Ngân hàng hiểu rất rõ về lĩnh vực nghiệp vụ của mình, hiểu rất rõ về những cái yêu cầu tuân thủ và đảm bảo cái việc an toàn tài chính. Fintech có những cái thế mạnh của mình là họ rất sáng tạo, họ rất năng động, thì làm sao chúng ta có thể phối hợp được với nhau để cung cấp được cái dịch vụ cho người dân.
The emergence of fintech has also become motivation for traditional banks to modernize and enhance their services. However, stricter regulations need to be implemented to make fintech a useful extension for banks. This is to guarantee the safety and rights of users.
How are banks in Vietnam dealing with the development of fintech?
I think some banks are engaging well with fintech. I think banks and fintech is a cooperative partnership. I don't think it's either fintech companies or banks. I think the best solutions will be as fintech companies embed themselves inside banks and provide solutions to customers from within the banking system. So I think the real winners for banks or for fintech companies will be those who partner with banks. We ourselves are building partnerships with fintech companies in the local market, and the reason for that is that both can benefit from that innovation. And if you look at Standard Chartered, we have built a partnership with a mobile wallet provider in Vietnam, and that we feel is benefiting us, and I hope it is also benefiting them. So the first thing that I think customers enjoy is the fact that Standard Chartered stands behind the service that we are providing our customers. So they get a sense of the fact that we are pretty comfortable in providing that service to them. Most customers want trust. Equally, our reach on customers is quite significant. So we also bring a large number of customers to the partnership.
How do you speculate the development of fintech in Vietnam in 2017 and in the upcoming years?
Bright, positive. As I said, with 90 million tech-savvy people, lots of innovation happening in the sector, good engagement between the regulatory authorities and the fintech ecosystem, I would expect a very positive long-term outcome for Vietnam. Good trained people in science and technology, good smart people trying to solve problems will always lead to good outcomes. I think the important thing is that society as a whole benefits from that innovation, and people who are solving genuine customer needs will clearly be successful.
Once again, thank you very much for this interview.
2016 witnessed a big wave of fintech development in Vietnam. It is said that it is now the time for fintech to surge in the finance and banking sector. Meanwhile, banks in Vietnam also can't help joining this new trend in the time of the fourth industrial revolution. Thus, fintech in Vietnam is expected to witness new interesting developments in the coming time. We'll keep you updated in the coming episodes of BizLine. For now, it's time to say goodbye. You can always rewatch our program at vtv4.vn or youtube.com/vtv4go. From our team here in Hanoi, until next time.